But I saw the logo and I went, that's my name, Snow White's up there, and I cried my eyes out.
Ma'am, I had a dream that I was replaced by a diverse woman.
Oh, not again.
Yeah, only this time, it wasn't just me. They were taking all my favorite people and replacing them with diverse women complaining about the patriarchy. Will you check under the bed and make sure there's no Disney executives under there?
Rachel Zegler Snow White just got completely torn apart by South Park, and the fallout is even worse than anyone expected. A brutal satire, public meltdowns, and behind-the-scenes chaos. This story has it all. Does this takedown mean the end of Zegler's Hollywood dream? South Park's savage attack on Snow White. When South Park sets its sights on a target, it doesn't hold back. And Disney's live-action Snow White was no exception. In one of their recent episodes, the creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, decided to take a brutal shot at Disney's latest attempt to modernize their classic tales, focusing on the changes to Snow White. The episode didn't name names directly, but the satirical jabs were unmistakable, especially considering the ongoing controversy surrounding Rachel Zegler's casting as Snow White. South Park's parody centered around Disney's growing reputation for wokeness in its remakes, something the show has skewered many times before. In this particular episode, they mocked the studio's efforts to force a progressive agenda, with exaggerated scenes that showcase Snow White as a completely different character, far from the original innocent princess. Instead, she was depicted as overly independent, to the point of being humorlessly self-righteous, an obvious dig at Disney's attempt to modernize the character. It's important to note that while this episode didn't explicitly mention Zegler, it was clear that the satire was aimed at her role and the overall direction of the film. What made this mockery sting even more was the fact that Zegler had already been facing intense backlash from fans. Many were upset about her comments in interviews where she openly discussed the film's changes, particularly about Snow White not needing a prince to save her. Fans of the original movie were torn, with some supporting a more empowered female lead, while others accused Zegler and Disney of abandoning the essence of the story. The South Park episode took this discourse and turned it up a notch, blending biting humor with social commentary. They mocked the idea that Disney was trying too hard to be relevant to today's audiences, which struck a nerve with both fans and critics. It's also worth mentioning the rumors circulating behind the scenes of the Snow White production. While nothing has been confirmed, some insiders have hinted that Zegler's outspoken nature regarding the film's direction may have caused tension on set. There were whispers that her comments about the original Snow White being outdated didn't sit well with everyone involved in the production. Again, these are just rumors, but they added fuel to the already blazing controversy. As the dust settles from South Park's takedown, the question remains: was this just another example of the show's irreverent humor, or did it cross a line into a more personal attack? Rachel Zegler's fame hits breaking point. Rachel Zegler, despite her immense talent, has found herself walking a tightrope ever since she was cast in Disney's live-action Snow White. Her meteoric rise, which began with her acclaimed role as Maria in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, quickly turned into a public spectacle as controversy surrounded her next major project. While West Side Story solidified her as a promising young actress, Snow White has led to a wave of backlash, especially after her outspoken comments about the film's modern twist were met with criticism. The moment Disney announced Zegler as the new Snow White, the public had mixed reactions. On one hand, there were those who celebrated the choice, lauding Disney for casting a Latina actress in such an iconic role. It was a win for diversity and representation in Hollywood. On the other hand, traditionalists were quick to express their disdain, believing that the remake was unnecessary and accused Disney of woke pandering. This backlash wasn't just limited to Zegler's ethnicity. Her opinions on the film's direction also made headlines. Zegler has been vocal in interviews about how the new version of Snow White would give the princess more agency. She emphasized that her character wouldn't be waiting for a prince to save her, a clear departure from the original 1937 classic. While some praised her comments, others saw them as a direct insult to the beloved animated film. In one interview, Zegler even went as far as to call the original Snow White story outdated, which caused an immediate backlash. Fans accused her of disrespecting the very story that had paved the way for Disney's success. It wasn't long before social media erupted. Hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite began trending, with many users calling for Disney to reconsider its casting and direction for the film. Zegler found herself in the crosshairs, with online trolls sending hateful comments and threats her way. Despite her best efforts to defend her stance, the backlash only grew stronger. Every interview, every comment, every appearance seemed to fuel the flames. Zegler's personal life also became a topic of public scrutiny. Rumors began swirling about tension between her and other members of the Snow White cast. While none of these rumors have been confirmed, it's alleged that Zegler's strong opinions about the film's message may have rubbed some of her co-stars the wrong way. Some sources even claimed that there were heated discussions on set about the direction the story was taking, with Zegler reportedly pushing for even more progressive changes than Disney had initially intended. Again, these are just rumors, but they contributed to the growing narrative that Zegler was becoming difficult to work with. Zegler's public image continued to take hits. She found herself in a difficult position. No matter what she said or did, it seemed to fuel more controversy. Even her attempts to show vulnerability were met with mixed reactions. While many people, especially her fans, rallied behind her, others criticized her for playing the victim. This dichotomy is all too common in Hollywood, where public figures are often placed under a microscope, and every action or word is dissected. But what exactly pushed Zegler to this breaking point? Was it the relentless criticism about her portrayal of Snow White, or did the South Park episode push her over the edge? Snow White's shocking makeover. Disney's live-action remake of Snow White has been nothing short of controversial, largely due to the sweeping changes the studio has made to the classic story. The original 1937 film, which remains one of the most beloved animated movies of all time, featured a simple, traditional narrative. A kind and innocent princess is saved by a handsome prince after falling into a deep sleep. It's a tale that, while enchanting, reflects the gender norms of its time. In today's era, where representation and empowerment are front and center, Disney has taken a bold step in giving Snow White a feminist makeover. From the beginning, Disney made it clear that this version of Snow White would be vastly different from the original. The new film would portray Snow White as a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a prince to save her. In fact, the prince has reportedly been cut from the storyline altogether, a move that shocked many fans. The original prince, while not a central character in the 1937 film, played a key role in Snow White's happily ever after. Removing him entirely marked a significant departure from the traditional fairy tale narrative. But that wasn't the only change. In the live-action version, Snow White is given much more agency. She's portrayed as a leader, someone who actively fights to protect her kingdom, rather than waiting for others to save her. This modern twist has been praised by some as a necessary evolution for the character, but it has also sparked fierce debate. Critics argue that these changes stray too far from the original story, accusing Disney of forcing modern values onto classic tales. One of the most controversial aspects of this makeover was Rachel Zegler's portrayal of the iconic princess. From the moment Zegler was cast, fans speculated about how she would embody this new, empowered version of Snow White. In interviews, Zegler spoke passionately about how this version of the character would be a role model for young girls, showing them that they don't need a prince to be strong. However, this message didn't sit well with everyone. Some felt that Disney was overcompensating in its attempt to make the character more feminist, turning Snow White into a caricature of modern ideals rather than staying true to the heart of the original story. The film's changes didn't stop with Snow White's character. The iconic Seven Dwarfs have also been reimagined. In this new version, the dwarfs are no longer the charming, whimsical characters from the original film. Instead, they've been replaced with a more diverse group of characters, each with their own distinct backstory. This decision was met with mixed reactions, with some praising Disney for adding depth to the supporting cast, while others felt that the changes were unnecessary and took away from the simplicity and charm of the original. There's also the question of the film's broader agenda. Some fans and critics have accused Disney of using the remake to push a political message, claiming that the film's emphasis on female empowerment and diversity feels forced. Allegedly, there were internal debates at Disney about just how far to take these changes, with some executives reportedly concerned that the film would alienate longtime fans of the original. These rumors, while unconfirmed, add another layer of intrigue to the already controversial project. With all these changes, the live-action Snow White has become a flashpoint in the ongoing debate about how far Hollywood should go in modernizing its stories. Is Disney sacrificing the magic of its classic tales in favor of political correctness, or are these updates a necessary reflection of the times? Satire, or personal attack. A thin line. When it comes to satire, few shows hit as hard as South Park. Trey Parker and Matt Stone have built their empire on pushing boundaries, often turning cultural and political topics into biting, irreverent humor. Over the years, they've taken aim at countless celebrities and institutions, with no one being truly off limits. The South Park episode that mocked the Snow White remake didn't directly name Zegler, but the jabs were crystal clear to anyone following the controversy. In the episode, Disney was portrayed as a corporation overly obsessed with modernizing its classic stories to appeal to today's woke audience. The biting humor targeted Disney's broader attempts at pushing a progressive agenda, but many saw the satire as also taking a shot at Zegler herself. She had become the face of this new modernized Snow White, and her outspoken defense of the film's changes made her a lightning rod for both praise and criticism. The South Park episode amplified that, portraying the remake in such an exaggerated way that it felt like Zegler, too, was being mocked for her role in the project. The impact of satire is often in how it lands, and for Zegler, this one felt personal. Following the episode, she allegedly expressed to friends and colleagues how deeply hurt she was by the show's portrayal. According to some insiders, Zegler felt that South Park had not only ridiculed her work, but had also targeted her personal beliefs and public statements regarding the movie. The satire had hit too close to home. However, South Park has always maintained that no one is safe from their humor. The show has mocked countless celebrities in the past, many of whom have faced even harsher treatment than Zegler. Tom Cruise's depiction in their infamous episode about Scientology is still talked about today, and Kanye West's character was repeatedly lampooned in ways that many felt bordered on cruel. Yet, for those celebrities, South Park was seen as just part of the game. Being ridiculed by the show is often regarded as a sign that you've made it to the big leagues of fame. So why did this episode feel different for Zegler? One reason could be the context in which it aired. Unlike Cruise or West, who were already established superstars with long-standing careers, Zegler is still at the beginning of her journey in Hollywood. Her casting in Snow White was meant to solidify her as one of the next big stars, but the controversy surrounding the film and her role put a target on her back. When South Park added to the criticism, it felt less like a joke and more like an additional blow in an already difficult situation. Moreover, Zegler's public persona played a role in how the satire was perceived. She has been vocal about social justice issues, using her platform to advocate for representation and diversity in Hollywood. While this has earned her praise from many, it has also made her a target for critics who accuse her of being overly political. The South Park episode, in some ways, reflected that criticism, using humor to take a jab at the very issues she champions. But this raises a larger question. When does satire cross the line into a personal attack? Is it fair for shows like South Park to mock celebrities who are already dealing with intense public scrutiny? For Zegler, the episode seemed to go beyond simple satire, and instead felt like a personal assault on her character and her beliefs. But for others, it was just another example of South Park doing what it does best, poking fun at the absurdities of modern culture, without sparing anyone. The debate over the role of satire in entertainment is not new. Shows like South Park rely on humor to shed light on cultural trends and hypocrisies, often using exaggerated scenarios to make their point. But when satire targets individuals who are already struggling with public perception, it can feel cruel rather than clever. Zegler's response to the episode was raw and emotional, a reminder that even public figures can feel the sting of satire in very real ways. Still, many believe that satire is an essential part of holding public figures and corporations accountable. Without shows like South Park, there would be fewer opportunities to critique the ways in which Hollywood and other industries reflect societal values. In the case of Snow White, the satire wasn't just about Zegler. It was also about Disney's broader strategy of reimagining classic films in ways that many see as forced or disingenuous. The humor may have been harsh, but it tapped into a conversation that was already happening in the public sphere. Can Zegler move past this, or will the sting of South Park follow her throughout her career? Is Zegler's future in Hollywood at risk? Rachel Zegler's rise to fame seemed unstoppable after her breakout role in West Side Story. But now, with the ongoing controversy surrounding Snow White and the additional layer of satire from South Park, many are wondering whether this young star's future in Hollywood is in jeopardy. The pressure that Zegler has faced since being cast as Snow White has been immense. While the film's release has yet to happen, the public discourse surrounding it has already created an uphill battle for Zegler. Her casting, initially seen as a win for diversity, quickly became overshadowed by criticism. The backlash intensified as she made statements about how the new Snow White would reflect modern values, which some viewed as dismissive of the original story. For any actor, this level of public scrutiny would be difficult to handle. But for Zegler, who is still in the early stages of her career, it has raised questions about her ability to weather the storm. Hollywood is notorious for building up young stars only to tear them down, and Zegler seems to be caught in that cycle. She went from being hailed as a fresh face in the industry to being at the center of a cultural debate that shows no signs of slowing down. One of the concerns is how this controversy will affect Zegler's future roles. While her talent is undeniable, Hollywood is a business, and studios may be hesitant to cast an actress who is at the center of so much controversy. There's also the fear that her association with Snow White will overshadow any future projects she takes on. This is not uncommon in Hollywood. Many actors have found themselves typecast or defined by a single role or controversy, making it difficult for them to move forward in their careers. There's also the question of how Zegler's public breakdown and emotional response to the criticism will impact her reputation within the industry. While many see her vulnerability as a sign of her humanity, others view it as a potential weakness. In an industry where actors are expected to have thick skin, Zegler's emotional reaction has led some to question whether she's cut out for the pressures of fame. This is especially relevant in an era where social media plays such a significant role in shaping public perception. Hollywood insiders have reportedly expressed concern that Zegler may be struggling to handle the intense scrutiny. Allegedly, there have been discussions about whether she will be able to handle the promotional tour for Snow White when the film is released. Some worry that the constant barrage of questions about the film's controversies will only add to the pressure she's already feeling. That being said, it's important to remember that Zegler is still a young actress with a long career ahead of her. Many actors have faced similar public challenges early in their careers and have gone on to become major stars. In fact, some of the most successful actors in Hollywood have experienced significant public setbacks, only to emerge stronger on the other side. If Zegler can navigate this difficult period and focus on her craft, there's no reason she can't continue to build a successful career. What do you think? Will Rachel Zegler's career bounce back from all this? Or could this controversy hold her back? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. See you in the next one.